Hello, everyone. I was inspired on my way to work this morning. I started thinking about something I saw yesterday, and sort of in my head, as I am wont to do, I effectively started writing a script of something I wanted to say. Even though this is unscripted, I have sussed it out in my head a couple of times now. Yesterday on Twitter, Hank Green posted something that really resonates to me as emblematic of a way of thinking that is going around right now. It's not a new way of thinking, but it just seems new because of the technology and because of the emotion and the intensity of current events. And through the magic of editing, I will now post to this video what it is that he put onto Twitter. Now, to the best of my knowledge, just as a preamble, this wasn't in direct response to something else on Twitter. As far as I know, Hank Green just posted this out of the blue. Just for clarity, racists almost never think they're racists. Now, if you think about that statement for a moment, you understand that it is a trap. It is a trap of logic. Because if you deny that you are a racist, if you have no notion that you possess some kind of racial superiority ideology, then obviously that is proof that would tend to show that you actually are probably a racist. This is what is commonly known as a Kafka trap, a trap of logic. Specifically, the more you deny something to be true is proof that tends to show that thing is true. Dr. Hoff used a phrase in one of his recent videos, that which is real resists. So if I'm accused of murder, my denial of having committed the crime would actually tend to prove my guilt. It's the same sort of logic that was employed during McCarthyism, where people would be brought before HUAC, the House on Un-American Activities Committee, and placed before the committee and asked things like, "Are you now or have you ever been a communist?" Now, being called before the committee in and of itself is an accusation. Why would you be called before this particular committee if they didn't already have information that would tend to suggest your guilt or your culpability in being a communist? So there really is no correct answer to give to that question. If you say yes, well, you've just implicated yourself as a communist. If you say no, well, you're just denying something because obviously you wouldn't be here unless there was evidence against you. And this is the same sort of logic that Hank Green has set up, but not only set up, but set up for himself. Because a commenter, not long after, asks the most relevant question after a declaration like that is made. Do you think that you are a racist? Now, where can Hank Green go from here? He has about 3 options, as far as I could tell. He could say, no, I'm not a racist. And in that case, he would just be tending to give guilt to his own sensibilities based on his own declaration. So obviously he can't say, no, I'm not. Because, well, that just proves his own point. Supposedly. The other option he has is to say, you know what? The thing I said was dumb. That was a dumb statement. That is a contradiction of logic, and it makes denial evidence of guilt. And I'm sorry. He could have done that. And, intellectually speaking, personally, I would have accepted that. How many times have I said something that it turned out to be wrong? Now, how many Facebook posts have I made based on misinformation about a celebrity dying or something? That's intellectually honest, to say I made a mistake. But Hank Green apparently didn't consider either of those 2 options viable. Because what does he do next? In that my decisions and actions are sometimes subconsciously or consciously informed by race, yes. The amazing thing is people who think that is not the case for them, but also believe black people or culture is inferior. So Hank Green is a confessed racist. I mean, he tries to mitigate the notion with subconsciously, but then he goes into consciously. And see, here's the thing. You can't be a little racist, just like you can't be a little pregnant. Either you are or you aren't. Now, in my heart of hearts, I don't think Hank Green is actually a racist. But then why would he say this? Well, because he has declared himself in moral superiority over the situation. Because look at the first tweet, just for clarity, because he's trying to make you all know and understand the truth of the situation. Racists almost never think they're racists. Hank Green knows the secret. Hank Green knows the truth about how racists operate. Because racism, it's not overt. It's subversive. It's unconscious. It's subconscious. Anybody can be infected, even Hank Green. Now, I see a lot of this, especially on Facebook. Now, I don't go to Facebook nearly as much as I used to, for probably obvious reasons at this stage of the game. The rhetoric, the fights, the social awkwardness of having political fights with people that you know for the world to see, especially people that you've known for years and friends that you kind of try to like to keep friendships with, becomes difficult. But I still go back to Facebook maybe once a week just to see if there's messages from family or to check up on people that I have good relations with. But in the aftermath of Charlottesville, I was curious. I was curious if I was going to see from the usual suspects the kind of virtue signaling, the kind of please believe that I am a good person after the aftermath of bad behavior by these other people who just happen to have my same skin color. Would I see that? Well, of course I did. Of course. And this brings me to my second point, and I'll try to keep this brief. I understand that I'm going on here. There is a phrase that I try to live by, and this phrase was born out of very difficult and hard-won experience. And that phrase is this: I take neither credit nor blame for things I have not done. Too many times now, I see people being accused of something, accused of thought crime, specifically. And you can name whatever it is. I mean, I'm talking about this in reference in the aftermath of Charlottesville, where white supremacy and such was the hallmark of those events. But this can apply to anything. You're a racist, you're a sexist, you're a transphobe, you're a homophobe, you're a misogynist, you're a misandrist, you're a feminist, whatever. Whatever somebody comes at you with as an accusation, the thing you do not do, as long as it is untrue. Now, this is the thing. If you attended a white nationalist rally and are called a racist, or you're caught with an Antifa flag wrapped around your face and you're called a terrorist, you might have a hard time disproving it. But in general terms, if someone comes at you with one of these Kafka traps, prove that you're not a racist, or prove that you're not a sexist, or I know that you're a transphobe, or anything like that. Do not capitulate. Do not become defensive. Do not deny what they've accused you of. I know it sounds counterintuitive. Instead, what you do is you look them in the eye, either figuratively or literally. This can happen on the internet, after all. And you say, prove it. Back up what you are saying, or retract what you've said and apologize. Because as soon as you lean back with your hands up in a defensive posture against an attack like that or an accusation, you have given them the power. You have given them the fuel to say, aha, they wouldn't be defensive if there wasn't some truth to it. Now, you look them in the eye and you say, prove it. And if they can't prove it, you say, now apologize. You set the rules of the game. Because they play this game very well, it seems. And the third point, and I swear this was the last one, the other horrible thing you can do to yourself is to internalize and accept the notion that you will always be there will always be an assumption of the worst of you. Let me try to clarify that. If you're accused of something based on what you look like, if you have all of these people saying, because of what you are contributing to this horrible crime. Whether you're female or male or black or white, whatever it is, it doesn't matter. If there's something inherently about your makeup that someone is accusing you of making you culpable or implicated in some horrible thing, the thing you never want to do is internalize it and just say, well, I guess I have to make sure that nobody knows that I'm one of those people. Or, that everybody knows that I'm pure, that everybody knows that I'm a good person. Imagine walking down the street and every person you come across, you stop them and say, just so you know, murder is bad. Or, just so you know, I do not celebrate rapists. Can you imagine how weird that is? Can you imagine how suspect that makes you on the reverse angle of that kind of thinking, of that kind of declaration? To walk through life with the paranoid notion that people are automatically going to think the worst of you for what you are, or who you've associated with in the past or in the present, and that it is on you to make sure everybody knows actively that you are not a bad person. If you're not a bad person, if you do not have horrible thoughts about people, if you do not hold some kind of discriminatory ideology, if you treat people well, you have nothing to apologize for. And anybody that comes at you with an accusation elsewise, the onus is on them. And you let them know that that is the case. Do not back down. Do not get defensive. If you've done nothing wrong, you make them prove it. You don't lean back and risk accepting the accusation as fact. There's my rant. And as always, thank you for listening.